Imagine being one of the most iconic performers in the world, knighted by the Queen, beloved across continents, and still somehow entangled in one of the most dramatic royal sagas in modern history. In the next few minutes you'll see how Sir Elton John, yes, the Rocket Man himself, became more than just a celebrity friend to the British royal family. His journey through love, loyalty, grief, and healing tells us not just about fame or royalty, but about what it means to grow with grace when the whole world is watching. Sir Elton John isn't just a pop legend with chart-topping hits and outrageous fashion. He's also woven into the emotional fabric of the British monarchy, standing at the crossroads of cultural influence and royal tradition. When people think of his connection to the royals, they usually go straight to Princess Diana, and rightly so. Their bond was real, emotional, and public in ways that still tug at our collective memory. But Elton's royal story starts long before Diana, and surprisingly it continues well beyond her. It's a story that includes Queen Elizabeth II, King Charles III, and in a twist few saw coming, even Queen Camilla. It all began back in the 1970s. Elton was on the rise, dazzling stages around the world, but he wasn't just catching the attention of music fans, he was making waves inside Buckingham Palace. His early invitations came from Princess Margaret and the Queen Mother, who saw in him a rare blend of charisma and sophistication. Elton wasn't royalty, but he wasn't just another pop star either. He had presence. He had polish. He could entertain and elevate the room without losing what made him unique. That's a rare talent. It's even said that during one of his early royal performances, Queen Elizabeth II got up and danced with him to Rock Around the Clock, inside Windsor Castle. That's not a rumor, that's legacy. That's a sign of trust. Think about what it means for the monarch, the head of centuries-old tradition, to let down her guard and simply enjoy the moment with an artist who, at that point, was still just entering the prime of his career. It was a moment that said, "You belong here." Fast forward to 1998. After decades of hits and heartbreaks, Elton John was knighted by Queen Elizabeth II, an honor that marked not only his artistic contributions but his charitable work, especially in the fight against HIV and AIDS. That moment elevated him from global superstar to national treasure. But the recognition didn't stop there. In 2021 he received another rare distinction, the Companion of Honor, personally awarded by then Prince Charles. Fewer than 70 people hold that title at any given time. It's not just for being famous, it's for making a difference, for leaving a mark. But if there's one relationship that defined Elton's royal legacy more than any other, it was his friendship with Diana, Princess of Wales. Their connection was instant. They met at Prince Andrew's 21st birthday in 1981 and were dancing together within the hour. Not because it was expected. Not because it was formal. But because it was fun. They clicked. They shared the same irreverence, the same desire to break through the stiff walls of royal tradition and connect with real people. That light-hearted friendship deepened over time, strengthened by shared values, kindness, vulnerability, and compassion for the marginalized. They bonded over their work in AIDS awareness, their mutual distrust of the press, and their shared belief that fame could be used for something good. When fashion designer Gianni Versace was murdered in 1997, both Elton and Diana were shattered. And just weeks later, the world watched as Elton said goodbye to Diana in the most public and painful way imaginable. He performed Candle in the Wind at her funeral, rewritten specifically for her. That performance wasn't just a song. It was an anthem of collective mourning. A reminder that even in the glare of the spotlight, grief is deeply personal. Elton later called it the hardest performance of his life. And for millions watching, it felt like a moment of emotional honesty in an institution not always known for it. After Diana's death, many assumed Elton's relationship with the royal family would fade away. But it didn't. He remained present, sometimes quietly, sometimes in ways that made headlines. He performed at Queen Elizabeth's Diamond Jubilee. He appeared at major royal events. He kept in touch with Prince William and Prince Harry. In fact, he was a guest at both of their weddings, and publicly defended Harry and Meghan when they became targets of ruthless tabloid scrutiny. In those moments, it wasn't just about loyalty, it was about protecting Diana's legacy. About standing up for the sons she adored. Which brings us to the unexpected part of this story, Queen Camilla. For years, Camilla Parker Bowles was seen as the ultimate royal villain. The other woman. The person many blamed for the end of Charles and Diana's marriage. So the idea of Elton John, Diana's most vocal celebrity ally, having anything close to a friendly relationship with Camilla seemed frankly impossible. And yet, reality is more nuanced than headlines. Elton and Camilla have shared public moments that suggest a quiet rapport. Take 2012, for example. At a gala hosted at Somerset House in London, an event in support of Elton John's AIDS Foundation, Queen Camilla was the guest of honor. When the two met, they shared a kiss on the cheek and exchanged smiles. It was brief but telling. There was no tension, no awkwardness. Just respect. That single photograph, Elton and Camilla smiling warmly, tells a story all on its own. It's the story of how people can evolve. How public figures can show grace even when history is complicated. Elton never turned his back on Diana's memory. But he also didn't shut the door on Camilla. In a world full of feuds and public drama, Elton took a different route. He chose kindness. He chose maturity. And that, more than any performance or award, might be his most lasting legacy. Elton has always been an advocate for healing. In his music, in his life, in his work. He's spoken openly about addiction, recovery, and finding purpose through service. His AIDS Foundation has raised hundreds of millions of dollars. Queen Camilla, too, has dedicated her royal platform to charity, championing causes like literacy, domestic violence awareness, and children's health. Different lanes but a shared mission, to do good with the influence they've earned. This is where the real story lives. Not in scandal. Not in tabloid spin. But in growth. Elton John and the British royal family have weathered enormous changes over the past 5 decades. Loss, criticism, reinvention. Through it all, Elton has remained what few ever managed to become. Both an icon and a trusted friend. Not just to Diana. Not just to William or Harry. But, in his own way, to the entire institution. He's performed for queens. He's challenged outdated norms. He's comforted grieving sons. And today he stands as proof that fame doesn't have to be shallow. That celebrity can carry substance. That people can change, forgive, and move forward. So the next time you see a photo of Sir Elton John beside a royal, whether it's Diana, Camilla, or Charles, look past the surface. See the full journey. A man who rose from a working-class home to global superstardom, who used his spotlight to shine on others, and who continues even now to surprise us, not with scandal but with grace. Have you ever wondered how someone can go from being one of the most criticized women in the world to becoming queen? You're about to witness one of the most remarkable image transformations in modern history, the journey of Queen Camilla. From being branded the villain in a royal love triangle to emerging as a pillar of strength and quiet leadership in the British monarchy, her story isn't just about scandal or survival, it's about resilience, reinvention, and the long road to acceptance. Before there were crowns, carriages, or constant press coverage, Camilla Rosemary Shan was just a girl from the English countryside. Born in 1947, she spent her youth in Sussex surrounded by horses, dogs, and a down-to-earth family. Her upbringing wasn't royal, but it was privileged, and more importantly, it shaped her into someone grounded, confident, and remarkably unfazed by life's storms. Those qualities would come in handy later. Camilla wasn't the fairy tale princess type, and maybe that's exactly why she stood out. She was sharp, independent, and had a quiet wit that could light up a conversation. So when she first met Prince Charles at a polo match in the early 1970s, sparks flew. There's a famous story, true or not, that she introduced herself with a cheeky line about her great-grandmother having been a royal mistress. Whether she actually said that doesn't even matter. It captured the energy between them. It was bold, playful, real. They connected instantly. They both loved the countryside. They both had a love for horses. And more than that, they just got each other. But the timing was terrible. Charles was on the verge of beginning his naval service and Camilla, pragmatic and realistic, went on to marry someone else, Andrew Parker Bowles. Charles was devastated, but royal expectations and public appearances kept pushing him forward. And that's when things started to get messy. Years later, even as Charles married Diana, Camilla remained a close confidant. What followed was a story we all know too well, one that dominated headlines, strained a royal marriage, and placed Camilla in the eye of a media firestorm. By the 1990s, Camilla wasn't just unpopular, she was vilified. In the court of public opinion, she was the other woman, the reason for Diana's pain, the villain in a royal soap opera the world couldn't stop watching. The press didn't just criticize her, they crucified her. Every unflattering photo made headlines. Every whisper turned into a roar. And Camilla? She didn't fight back. She didn't hold press conferences or release emotional statements. She didn't try to charm the world. She simply endured. And here's where the story begins to change. Because while the headlines were loud, Camilla was steady. She stayed out of the spotlight. She supported Charles quietly. She focused on her life, her family, and slowly, painfully slowly, let people see who she really was. And over time that mattered. The public began to notice. Not all at once, but little by little. They saw a woman who wasn't chasing fame. Who wasn't interested in royal grandeur. Who wasn't trying to be Diana or replace her. She was just herself. Warm, humorous, grounded, and perhaps most importantly, consistent. When Charles and Camilla married in 2005, it wasn't a grand royal affair. It was subdued, respectful, and deeply symbolic. Their civil ceremony was followed by a quiet church blessing, a nod to tradition, but also an acknowledgement of history and hurt. Camilla chose the title Duchess of Cornwall, intentionally avoiding Princess of Wales, a role forever tied to Diana. That decision spoke volumes. It showed emotional intelligence. It showed respect. And from that point forward, Camilla began to redefine herself, not through speeches or drama but through service. She took on royal duties with quiet discipline. She didn't dominate events or seek to be the center of attention. Instead she showed up. To schools. To hospitals. To book readings and agricultural fairs. Always listening. Always smiling. Never flashy. One of her deepest passions? Literacy. Camilla has always loved books. But more than that, she believes in the power of reading to change lives. In 2011 she launched what began as the Reading Room and later became the Queen's Reading Room, a charity that promotes reading and literacy across all ages. For her, books are more than stories. They're tools of empathy, imagination, and healing. And through her efforts she's helped thousands rediscover the joy of reading. But her impact didn't stop there. Long before it was fashionable or widely discussed, Camilla began speaking out on behalf of victims of domestic violence and sexual abuse. She didn't just attend fundraisers. She visited shelters. She listened to survivors. She worked with organizations like Safe Lives and Women's Aid, not as a figurehead, but as a compassionate advocate. And her advocacy made a difference. This wasn't about photo ops. It was about amplifying unheard voices, shedding light on painful issues and pushing for real change. In doing so, she showed a kind of quiet courage, a willingness to confront darkness with grace. As the years passed, Camilla began to relax more into her role. Her signature dry humor made appearances. Her laugh became a familiar sound at royal events. Slowly, the public stopped seeing her as a scandal and started seeing her as something else entirely, a stabilizing force, a reliable presence, a queen in the making. That moment came in 2022, with the passing of Queen Elizabeth II. It was a monumental shift for the monarchy, and for Camilla. Suddenly, the woman once dubbed the most hated in Britain was Queen Consort. And the world watched, wondering how she'd handle the weight of history. The answer? With the same calm dignity that had defined her for decades. But here's the thing, Queen Elizabeth herself had endorsed Camilla's role. Earlier that year, she released a message during her Platinum Jubilee expressing her sincere wish that Camilla be known as Queen Consort when the time came. It was more than approval. It was legacy. And Camilla honored that legacy. She didn't try to mimic Queen Elizabeth, how could she? Instead, she brought her own energy to the role. Less formality. More approachability. But with the same deep sense of duty. Whether attending state dinners or visiting a children's library, Camilla showed up, genuine, composed, and kind. She's become a symbol of something we don't talk about enough. The strength in staying power. In not breaking when the world wants you to. In staying true to yourself even when your name is dragged through the mud. Her story isn't about a scandal, it's about redemption. It's about how time, grace, and service can reshape a legacy. Camilla may never be adored in the way Diana was. But maybe she doesn't need to be. Because what she offers is something different, and equally vital. Stability, compassion, and the wisdom that comes from having survived the storm. So if you've ever doubted someone's ability to change, to evolve, to prove the world wrong, not with noise but with quiet strength, let Camilla's journey be your reminder. Before you go, let me ask, did this story shift your perspective even a little? If it did, help us keep bringing powerful stories like this to light. Hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives into royal history and cultural icons, and share this video with someone who still believes in the power of transformation. She was no stranger to scrutiny. For decades, Camilla was a woman whose name stirred whispers in palace corridors and headlines in tabloids. But in May 2023, the world saw her step into a role many believed she would never occupy. At Westminster Abbey, beneath the vaulted ceiling and the gaze of centuries of royal tradition, Camilla was crowned Queen Consort. There was no hesitation in her step, no flicker of doubt in her eyes. She had weathered more than enough storms to be unshaken by this moment. But the journey here had been long, complex, and deeply human. From the very beginning, Camilla was caught in the gravity of the royal orbit. She wasn't born into royalty, but she was born into privilege. Raised in a world of country estates, fox hunts, and upper-class codes, Camilla Shand was the kind of woman the royal family might have deemed suitable for marriage, had timing and history been different. But fate is rarely simple in the House of Windsor. Her early love story with Prince Charles was interrupted by royal expectations, family pressures, and a world that was not yet ready to bend the rules. When Charles married Diana, Camilla became the villain in a fairy tale narrative that the press crafted and the public consumed. She was cast as the third person in a doomed marriage, the hidden shadow behind every official photo. What followed was a period of intense public hostility. Her name was often spat rather than spoken. Her face, when shown, was a symbol of betrayal. But Camilla did something few could in her position. She did not retaliate, did not speak out, did not crumble. She waited. Behind palace walls, Charles never truly let go of her. Their connection remained, even as scandal and tragedy unfolded. After Diana's death in 1997, the nation mourned a princess and demanded accountability. Camilla, though absent from public life, bore much of the blame. And yet, slowly and cautiously, Charles began to reintroduce her. First quietly, then publicly. A photo here, a shared appearance there. The public didn't immediately warm to her, but time has a way of softening edges, and Camilla was never in a rush. What many didn't see was the relationship Camilla began to build with Charles's sons. It wasn't fast and it wasn't easy. Princes William and Harry were navigating their own grief, their own memories, their own loss. Camilla did not try to replace Diana. She didn't overstep or force a bond. She waited, showed consistency, humor, kindness. Over years, not months, there grew a mutual respect. While William is said to now have a warm relationship with her, Harry's connection, especially in recent years, remains more distant, strained by larger family dynamics. But Camilla's influence within the royal family expanded. She took on charitable roles, often focused on causes that didn't draw massive crowds or headlines: domestic violence support, literacy, osteoporosis awareness. These weren't glamorous initiatives, but they were deeply important to her, grounded in personal experiences. And the way she approached them, without grandeur, without ego, began to shift the public's perception. She wasn't trying to win over the world. She was just doing the work. Inside the royal household, Camilla became a quiet force. She was Charles's confidant, yes, but also a calming presence. Her humor helped in tense moments. Her pragmatism was an anchor in a world often detached from reality. Staff respected her. Family members began to rely on her. And when Queen Elizabeth II publicly acknowledged her wish that Camilla be known as Queen Consort when Charles became king, it was more than royal protocol, it was validation. Still, the title stirred fresh debate. There were those who insisted Camilla should never be queen, that the role should remain Diana's in spirit if not in law. But titles are more than names, they are reflections of evolution. And Camilla's evolution, from pariah to partner, from mistress to monarch, was undeniable. The coronation itself was symbolic. Camilla wore Queen Mary's crown, modified and stripped of the controversial Kohinoor diamond to reflect modern sensibilities. Her family, her children and grandchildren from her first marriage, participated in the ceremony, a subtle yet powerful message of integration. The woman once scorned as an outsider was now fully woven into the royal fabric. And what of her personal life beyond the palace walls? Camilla Parker Bowles, before she was queen, was a woman of sharp wit and unpretentious charm. She smoked, she read obsessively, she doted on her dogs. She had a close circle of friends who remained loyal even in the most turbulent times. She wasn't flashy or overly ambitious. Her power came not from status but from steadiness. Those who know her describe her as earthy, warm, and refreshingly normal in a world often defined by performance. She could talk to a farmer or a foreign diplomat with the same ease. That quality became one of her greatest strengths. It grounded her and by extension grounded Charles. Their bond, decades in the making, wasn't one of fairy tales, it was of endurance. And that's perhaps the most striking thing about Camilla's role in the royal family. She is not a symbol of fantasy. She is a symbol of reality, of how messy life can be, of how people make mistakes, grow and change, of how love, in its raw and unpolished form, can outlast public opinion. Today, Queen Camilla stands beside King Charles not just as a consort, but as a partner in every sense. She attends state functions, leads initiatives, supports the monarchy, but she also knows who she is. She doesn't try to mimic Diana, nor does she attempt to erase the past. She honors it, lives alongside it, and continues forward. In the age of instant judgment and digital outrage, her story reminds us of the value of time, patience, and consistency. She didn't demand acceptance. She earned it. Quietly, steadily, and eventually, completely. As the royal family continues to evolve in the 21st century, Queen Camilla's presence offers something unique, a blend of tradition and transformation, dignity without drama, compassion without spectacle. She represents a monarchy not frozen in time, but capable of adaptation. She may never be universally adored, but she no longer needs to be. Her strength was never in popularity, it was in perseverance. And now, when the history books are written, not the tabloid clippings but the real histories, Camilla will not be a footnote. She will be a chapter. A chapter about grace under pressure, about the power of waiting, and about the quiet, resolute woman who became queen. If you found this story as powerful as we did, help us keep sharing more like it. Hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and share this video with someone who appreciates the intersection of music, history, and humanity. There's more to come, and we'd love to have you along for the journey.